Hi, my name is Alfred Rowlett, and I'm doing my video assignment on Bertrand Russell's work, Why I Am Not Christian. So basically, Bertrand Russell goes through and first he asks, what is a Christian? And he goes on and defines what a Christian is. He says a Christian is somebody who believes in God and immortality. He also says that a Christian believes that Christ was, at the very least, believes that Christ was the best and wisest of men. So Mr. Russell believes to show why he's not a Christian, he must denounce what it is to be a Christian. So he's going to go on in his writings and show why he doesn't believe in God or immortality, and why he doesn't believe Christ. While he believes Christ was a wise man, he doesn't believe Christ was one of the wisest and one of the best men. So Mr. Russell uses a number of arguments to show why he does not believe in God and immortality. A few of the arguments he uses, the first cause argument, the natural argument, the argument from design, the moral arguments for deity, and the argument for remedy of injustice. Basically what he's going to do is he goes through these arguments and tries to show why those arguments are flawed, the fallacies in those arguments, and gives his ideas on what he believes is the correct argument and the correct train of thought, what you should be thinking when you're listening to those arguments. So the first cause argument basically is everything has a beginning. So you came from your parents came from their parents, and so on and so forth, all the way back to the beginning. And what caused the creation was God. And he's basically saying that's just the poverty of our imagination, that there had to be a beginning, or that God was the beginning in creation. So basically, in his argument, he does not believe the first cause. So I found the natural argument to be a little hard to read and understand, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over the natural argument. We're going to go ahead and go to the argument from design. Basically, what he's saying there in the argument of design is that the world is built so that we can live in it. Climates being habitable, oxygen being in a certain range that's capable of sustaining life, temperature being able to sustain life. That's the idea of the argument of design. He's basically saying, with God being a perfect God, he would not have built a world such as this if he was such a perfect God. He's saying basically, with all the violence going on in the earth, the natural disasters and catastrophes going on Earth, a perfect God would not have built such a world, as his idea of the fallacy of the design argument. So when Mr. Russell begins talking about Christ, he's talking about things he does agree with, and he states Christ is a good person, and he agrees with a lot of his teachings, and he throws in the argument that many Christians don't live up to the same teachings, as he uses turn the other cheek argument. If somebody hits you in the cheek, turn the other cheek so they can hit you on the other side. And he points out, I believe it was the Prime Minister, and he said, Ed, if you believe that, try it with the Prime Minister. See if he turns the other cheek. He's going to say it was more figurative than literal. So Mr. Russell has a moral problem with Christ and his teachings, basically the damnation of one who isn't a Christian to hell. So for that, he says, somebody who is all loving and forgiving God would not damn somebody to hell. And he goes on further and speaks about the church and how the church has slowed progress through their teachings, mainly using the Catholic Church as his reference. And he also goes on to say the foundation of religion is fear. Basically saying that we're afraid of being by ourselves, we're afraid of death, what happens after death, and basically fear is what rules religion and Christianity, according to Mr. Russell. So that basically summarizes the work that I read of Mr. Russell's Why I Am Not a Christian. Um, did I understand the work? I felt like I understand the majority of the work. It's fairly easy to read for the most part. There are a couple of spots where he was going off on little tangents that was kind of hard to follow, but I did my best to follow. Like I said, the natural argument, he went off a little bit there. I just couldn't follow exactly what he was uh, trying to lead to there with that argument. Um, do I agree with the work? Yeah, certain parts of it I could see where he had his ideas, and I understand exactly what he's saying. But then there's other parts. I almost saw it like a documentary. If you ever watch a documentary, sometimes you might hear something and you're like, you know what? Even though you didn't believe it at all, the documentary will lead you down the path, and you start to be like, yeah, that might be true. I believe that. They're showing you all the sides that they want you to see. So that's kind of the way I took some of what he was saying. Did I like the work? I didn't think it was bad. It wasn't poorly written. Did I hate it or loved it? Nah, I can't say I hated it or I loved it. Either or. It was just it's fairly interesting to read just to see another point of view. But I wouldn't say it was a hate or a love. All right. So just to summarize what I've done, basically I read Miss Russell's Why I Am Not a Christian, and I did not find it. I found it to be fairly easy to read. I didn't find it to be super interesting or completely boring either. I read quite a few works trying to find something to do a video on, and some of the works are really hard to read. This one was not that bad to read. Would I recommend it? Sure. I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind. If you're a Christian, it's not going to change your mind and make you not a Christian. If you're not a Christian and you're looking for an argument to have, I suppose this could be a good argument for you. But yeah, that's pretty much what that is.